This is Karrigan, one of the longest standing players in esports history, competing at the highest level in 3 different versions of Counter-Strike.
Oh, Karrigan! As Karrigan claims one over the top with the 5-7, and Karrigan finishes it off.
Retake this with damage done earlier. Double up from Karrigan. Karrigan wants his revenge. And he's gonna get it.
Competing and winning in some of the most iconic tournaments in competitive gaming.
Never before seen. You're champions of IEM Cologne.
But success is never created in a straight line.
And it was very clear when Nico said we're changing things, Karrigan's not going to be the IGL anymore.
Through his career, there has been many struggles and even betrayal.
We all thought at the moment maybe changing a leader would be good, and it kind of just went downwards from there. And I think it was a really wrong decision, and it's something we think we all regret from that time.
But through it all, he was able to achieve what most will never. This is the story of the best IGL of all time. When you think of a professional esports player's childhood, you typically imagine someone who's been playing video games practically since birth. But for Karrigan, that wasn't the case.
Most of my childhood was about playing football. I was very competitive. It's hard to say how good I was, but I was pretty good, had a lot of medals and really enjoyed playing. I had a big injury twice where I was out for half a year. So I couldn't play what I really loved to do, that was football, and then just went off from there.
With him not having anything to do because of his injury, he started to watch his older brother play video games. But the one game that stood out to Karrigan the most was called, and you guessed it, Counter-Strike. From the moment he was able to play himself, he was hooked.
I think CS spoke to me. First of all, it's very adrenaline, the feeling of course shooting in the game, and later on I think just the tactical approach and how you can perfect your movement, how you can perfect your shooting, winning 1v5, 1v4, so going to public server. I think all the adrenaline you had when you were a small kid comes from the game itself.
At the age of 11, he was already beating grown adults online. It wasn't until a few years later where he started to take things a little bit more serious.
At 13, 14, 15 years old, I started going to tournaments, and my parents drove me to random places in Denmark where, why are you going to the city? There's a competition with 100 people, and my parents understood, okay, he wants to do this, but school is also important.
Karrigan's parents were understanding that this was something he was passionate about, but it was 2003. This was during a time where video games were just hobbies, and making a career out of it just didn't exist. So Karrigan's parents wanted him to focus on getting an education. He agreed, but also didn't want to give up on his dream.
Yeah, I remember first time, I think this was kind of real eye-opener for my parents. I think it was approximately $100 on the table in cash. I said look, I made my own money now. You got this from playing? Yes, I got 4th place or something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but there was a moment where my parents were like, okay, there is something here. And then I really now I want to play the big tournaments. And from there on, I never looked back. I think for sure my competitive drive made me who I am today, and also where it all started. For sure the best game in the whole world, and it will never be better. 1.6 is nothing can even comparable. Yes, the graphics are bad, but I swear to God, if you update the graphics but had the same engine, I'll be so happy, but it's fine.
This was a magical time for many, including Karrigan. Before 1.6, the game was simply a mod for another game called Half-Life. It wasn't until the year 2000 when Valve required the rights to it and released its second iteration in 2003 that gamers really started to view Counter-Strike as a serious competitive shooter. 1.6 revolutionized the PC FPS genre and ended up sparking the careers of many legends we know of today.
That really inspired me, and I started watching the best teams in the world, Neo, Forest, the Danish guys, and I really feel like I want to be as good as them. I think 2006-07, it really took like the turn, okay, I'm one team away to kind of have a salary and a contract and all that kind of stuff you dream of, right?
This is when the young player from Denmark was trying to find his footing in the CS scene, joining numerous different teams that many wouldn't recognize the name of today. It wasn't until Karrigan joined Mouse Gaming in 2011 where he really started to make a splash onto the scene.
I really did great. I think that was the moment I kind of broke through completely international on the stage.
Опять по серии разменов каких-нибудь Керриган. Фраг дает. Ой-ой-ой, фраг дал. Развод на дефьюз. Еще дефьюз, Зевс выжидает. Ой-ой-ой-ой-ой, Керриган!
Got a MVP at a major tournament as well as 3rd to 4th place.
He was consistently one of the best players on the roster and even earned himself the 8th spot on the HLTV Top 20 Players of 2011.
And I think to this day that was a key moment in my career of the person I am today, because at that moment I have now tried all roles in the game. Lurk, entry, AWP and IGL before that as well. So I finally felt I was a complete player and ready to take a big step into the next chapter.
But the Mouse roster didn't last.
The kind of the Mouse team went downhill. Things were happening. I think some players were stepping down.
But little did Karrigan know another opportunity was about to come along that would solidify his legacy in 1.6.
And I got an option to join Fnatic. I remember, I think it was the first tournament with our team, if I'm not sure, it's Copenhagen Games. We played a tournament, all the best teams are there who's still playing, like the VP guys, SK Gaming, and we meet Na'Vi in the final.
С вами неизвестности Аня Афина Миронова.
And I think we played so many overtimes, and we end with a win.
The winner is Fnatic!
And we kind of became like a dream team, so to say. I think we won like 8 tournaments in a row or 8 finals in a row. And suddenly I just have this taste of victories left and right.
Karrigan pusht ihn und jetzt gibt es der Letzte und er fällt und es ist der Sieg.
Finally, when I'm reaching a high level and I'm feeling good and life is good and new contracts and stuff like that and smooth direction, new game comes out.
When CSGO was released, how did you feel about it?
When CSGO got released, it was shit game.
I'll put it bluntly, it is crap.
The movement was pretty terrible.
But it was absolutely not in a reviewable state.
Honestly, it was bad. It was really bad. I didn't want to play. First of all, there was a Molotov that you could not deny. So there's a Molotov in the open and you're just staying and looking. You can't deny it with a smoke or anything. Everything was like bad, and I think one of the cool things I loved about 1.6 was you could wallbang people. Like you could not shoulder peek like we know today, like checking corners. You are just, if you didn't strafe, you just died because the guy would wallbang you and you were holding angles. So yeah, the whole philosophy about how you played the game changed from one day to another, and I think that was really rough on me because I perfected my game with the way 1.6 was played.
When CSGO officially released in 2012, Fnatic along with Karrigan began to practice on the new version. However, the team soon realized that the game was not as familiar to 1.6 as they expected.
Our movement stuff, I think, differs from 1.6 to make it really professional. And then probably the recoil for the guns, because just right now the AWP is just really overbalanced and the other guns sucks.
After a while, they began to express their dislike for it, and understandably so.
Now I look like I'm like 5 feet taller than everyone else.
Saying the game was rough around the edges would be an understatement. Although Karrigan was disappointed, he remained optimistic about the game.
I always try to tell myself, whatever I have learned in 1.6, you can transfer 50% of it, but the whole way of playing is different. But I knew already after 2-3 weeks practicing with Fnatic guys that their mentality towards the game was so much talking about how bad the game is, then trying to find a solution. So I had to leave the team, and then I started jumping left and right until I found something.
From then on, Kerrigan struggled to find a home, bouncing back and forth between teams with little to no success. With underwhelming performances, some started to doubt Kerrigan's capabilities. He had a great run at the end of 1.6, but they doubted if he could really adapt to this new version of Counter-Strike. On top of everything, he was still trying to balance his education with a full-time esports career.
Jumping teams every third month, it was a chaos for me. Never really enjoyed the game. And I think then I started my master degree. Then I was like, okay, I'll take a break for a few weeks. I went full ham, tried to study, and I got like a exam. I was like, okay, that's pretty easy when you actually have time to think about the exam and stuff like that. I was retired for 2 weeks, not officially, but 2 weeks was like, maybe it's time, you know. I had my fun in 1.6. TSM comes with an incredible offer. I'm like, what's the salary? I'm like, whoa, okay, now things are happening behind the scenes here. I'll try it for a year, see how it goes, and never look back after that. And I was doing both things on the same time.
Things really started to turn around, winning multiple different tournaments. But it wasn't until Face It League 2015 where they showed the world what they could really do.
Welcome back to the Face It Stage 1 LAN Finals. Get hyped, because this is when one of these teams is going to go through as the final team in the semi-finals.
Defeating Na'Vi twice in the group stage, then, to everyone's surprise, 2-0ing Fnatic, who was known as the super team.
A little bit easier. Karrigan again finding frags there. Oh, he's shot the edge of the barrel. That's not going to find him the frag. TSM going to take the first game. Mates, the lurker for Fnatic versus 2. Pulling out the Deagle, running out of bullets. There's a frag onto KGB. He's got 4 HP. Needs to find Dupree, but he will not get there in time.
Yeah,
he does, and that is GG. 2-0 to TSM, taking down Fnatic.
But they weren't done. They faced NIP for the trophy.
And the execute coming into a Tech-9's armor, nades, Molotovs in the hands of the players of NIP as well. First player sprayed down by Device, trade coming in though, Simnix at the quad boxes, and all the nades come in, and it's not looking too bad at the moment for either team, but 3-on-2 now, as Karrigan claims one, over the top with the 5-7, and Karrigan finishes it off. You hear them just elated.
Showing everyone they can truly be one of the best teams in CSGO.
I think when we started winning trophies, I finally had this feeling that I adapted to the new game, first of all. I found a way to lead a team. So for me, yeah, I started to prove myself, man, still got some fire left in me. I was still very motivated, right? And when you think about it, only like 8 months before I was thinking about retiring, and here I am lifting trophies against the best teams in the world and beating Fnatic and stuff like that.
With over a year and a half of doubt from others, he never gave up and ultimately proved them all wrong. Despite TSM's incredible performances, turmoil was bubbling behind the scenes.
So we had 1 year in TSM, and it was good in the beginning, but we kind of felt like neglected down the line. TSM was very focused on the League of Legends teams. It was the main thing.
See, in 2014 and 15, their League of Legends team was considered to be in their golden age. So Kerrigan and his team started to feel like they were being put on the sidelines, even though they were winning.
Do they even know who we are or what we do? And I think in the end we just wanted something else, and we decided to found our own organization, Astralis.
Kerrigan and his team made history as the first player-owned organization in CSGO.
Founding Astralis, we really made a big foundation for the generation of Counter-Strike we've seen until now.
To this day, Astralis is still a household name within Counter-Strike. But to a surprise, the team decided to bench Kerrigan only 8 months after the org was created.
First off today, guys, in big CS news coming from Astralis. They announced it just this morning. At the time that you guys watched this video a couple hours ago, they announced their benching of their player Kerrigan. As many of you know, they traded for him a long time ago. Kerrigan has been benched in the lineup and will be replaced by...
Kerrigan had two choices: stay on Astralis as a bench player and keep your ownership, or leave it all behind and pursue a new team.
And obviously I got benched 7-8 months into the contract, so I could decide to stay with some percentage. For me, it was easy to give up the ownership, and my priority, I wanted to show the world so bad that I have a vision and I want to kind of make people win with it.
Soon after walking away, another team came calling.
So yeah, I want to talk about FaZe Counter-Strike. So a lot of people, if you guys did not know, we announced a Counter-Strike team yesterday. It was pretty awesome.
At the time, FaZe wasn't known as the tier 1 team we know of today. It was more looked at as a retirement home for players who really couldn't make the cut for better teams.
That people got benched and then they went to FaZe Clan. You had players like Hiroshima who came from not being good enough to Envy. You had Elo who wasn't good enough for NIP. You had Rain who was an upcoming player but couldn't find a Norwegian team. So I was like, this is kind of a fun project if you can turn around to it not being a retirement home but actually turn around to P1 or play in FaZe Clan.
FaZe was actively looking for someone who could take the team and shape them into a championship contender.
They are telling me basically they only think one player has to stay 100%, that's Rain.
First time I met Finn back in the end of 2016 when he came to our team. We still hadn't managed to get out of groups at that point, and he was the first real in-game leader that I actually played with, and I think he improved us from day one, basically.
Within 4 days of Karrigan joining the team, he led them to their first ever semifinals.
The focus here from Shroud, but will there be one? Rain on the truck angle. Oh, Shroud expects it, but that's going to be that. FaZe take it over Cloud9. They eliminate them and they secure their spot in the playoffs here in E-League Season 2.
We managed to turn it around right away, and we reached semis, I think, the next event with them. So I had a really good impression of him, and I learned a lot from him throughout my career.
But that was no fluke. In 3 months, he elevated FaZe from a 15th ranked team in the world all the way to 4th. But Karrigan wasn't satisfied. He was looking for a superstar to bring the team to the next level.
When you have built that foundation, you need to see how can we upgrade the team. And in some way, AC came to me after the major. I think we went out in quarterfinal, and he said he's gonna join the North project. He missed playing with Danish players. I'm like, okay. I hit up Nico, and he's ready to join the team now.
A new team, new lineup, but the same skill we get used to from Nico. How do you feel yourself in the FaZe lineup now?
I feel really great. It's much better than I felt in the Mouseverse, obviously, but it's just beginning.
After Nico joined, 2 others came along that gave FaZe Clan more firepower than any roster in CS history, Olaf and Guardian.
I just thought to myself, if that's happening, that's a super team right there. You have.
Each player on the roster was individually exceptional. But the real question was whether the lineup could live up to the expectations of holding the top spot. And honestly, the answer wasn't always clear. Initially, the team struggled due to the limited practice when they first came together.
I also knew the second we signed them, we need trophies, because else they only look at one head, and that's mine. But I was willing to take that. This is what I dreamed of, that you actually make a team and you make it competitive, even on paper, big players, big egos. So yeah, I was just looking forward to get to the server play.
After DreamHack Masters in 2017, FaZe finally hit their stride under Karrigan's leadership, winning several high-profile events, including another win against Australis at the E-League CSGO Premier 2017.
Takes down Dupree. Now they know where the remaining players are coming from, and it is inevitable. It is over. Xyp9x down to 5 HP, and it's not going to be enough. 16-7 win.
It's obviously worth it. Here they are, FaZe, ladies and gentlemen.
For the next 3 events, Karrigan's vision of FaZe was among the favorites at every event they attended, and that included the Boston Major.
Coming to the major, we knew one of our biggest rivalries, SK, were changing lineup, so they were like a dead lineup. So looking from outside, we kind of felt like there's a good tournament to win. But in some way, I think our team was too overconfident during the playoff. It's a strange thing to say now when I always try to make my team overpeak and overconfidence, but the playoff bracket, the playing Mouse was a really rough game in semi-final, and classic game with Nico Klutz as well on Nuke, I remember that.
Nico then, it's Nico coming in, the backlines, takes down Chris J. All of a sudden, it's flipped around once again. 2 versus 1, the world's best player up against it to stay in the game. They'll go for the fake defuse, but Nico not taking the bait. Can he finish things off? Yes, he can!
Of course, the final, we play Cloud9.
Yeah, and I mean, you have to realize this crowd is not going to be quiet.
I think we won like 5 times in a row against them. We picked the same maps.
Plays through the smoke. Tarek though, undiscovered. Where's the refrag? Olofmeister not close enough to deal the damage. And Automatic can reset the situation as Tarek waits patiently. Oh, that is phenomenal! Cloud9 make it work! Map 2 in the bag!
It goes to shit and then it goes to Inferno.
Alright, already gonna see
to this day, I still believe, even though the community doesn't, I think it was the right call to go B.
Might be a problem, but they've got Rush in the graveyard position. 28 seconds now, and Olofmeister might try to pull rotation. He's the only man on Banana. Rush with an off angle, looking towards the Apps position. The Molotov comes in, but so does the rotation. Olofmeister, though, has been taken out towards the B bomb site. But Automatic's going towards A. Nothing else is going on. He's got to go back. Stewie's on his own, but look at the time.
He's alone B with an AWP, he kills 3.
Look at the time, there's 7 seconds to plant the bomb. They're trying to build pyramids, but there's no more play. Stewie's won the round. We're going to overtime.
Stewie makes a good career out of that moment, and we end up having a rough time to win the game, right? And I think maybe if I would have won the major in 2018, maybe I wouldn't be sitting here today.
As Cloud9 sets the push up. Oh, it's happened! They made it work! Cloud9 are your E-League Major champions!
I think the 2018 lit a fire under me that I need to be better. Not only as a player, but also as a person, as a leader. And I think to this day, if I won one major in 2018, maybe I've been slacking too much and wouldn't be here today.
After losing the Boston Major, some say there was a domino effect that ultimately led FaZe to never recover.
So I think one of the key things that people believe that the Boston Major kind of killed the team. I don't think so. I was there in the moments in the talks. The one that kills it the most was 3 weeks later, Katowice.
FaZe fell into a slump. Frustration started to build within the team, and Kerrigan took the fall as the team no longer believed in his leadership.
We kind of all just made the team into like a toxic environment, and I feel like we all thought at the moment maybe changing a leader would be good from there. And I think it was a really wrong decision, and something we think we all regret from that time.
Kerrigan was once again in a place he found himself many times before. But this time was different.
I think the motivation of being benched is again showing to myself, showing to my previous teammates, and showing to the world that I still know how to win trophies. I still think my vision is right.
He believed in his capabilities as a leader, and if FaZe didn't, he would find a team that did. That team was Mouse.
But being a Mouse was a cool experience. It was exactly what I needed. Young, hungry players, a lot of respect for me.
When I first met Finn, I think we pretty much clicked almost from the get-go.
I think he was like the first real leader, and I mean, so far, like kind of my only one.
By this time, Kerrigan was a true CS veteran who had experienced nearly everything the scene had to offer. However, one thing he hadn't encountered was a group of young, hungry players looking for a strong leader.
Back then, it was like me, David, there was also Voxic. Like we were 3 young guys. And then there was Chris J. Like it was tough to do for sure with that lineup, but Finn is like one of the only people who could make that work.
During his time with Mouse, Kerrigan transformed the team, taking them from scrappy underdogs to the second best team in CSGO.
Your Season 10 Pro League champion, Mousesports!
I think just all I was just happy actually. I enjoyed my time with Frozen a lot, Robs a lot, right? There's 2 players who've been teammates for like 4 years now or something. So it's really people who kept me on the right track, because I think if I joined another team and that project wouldn't work, I don't know where I would be today, but they helped me getting on the right track, and I'm still grateful for them, how they respected me from day one until today.
Then COVID happened.
Breaking news, stay at home. That is the order tonight.
This is a global pandemic.
So I think for me when COVID hit was really rough. First of all, I remember us playing the Katowice lower bracket final.
In the playoffs, and now it's time to see whether 100 Thieves can get this Mousesports off their back.
We're the last game on the stream. It's 1-1. There's a 30 minutes extended break where they explain that Katowice arena will be closed.
Thank you very much, Alex. Thank you very much, Henry. And yes, we all do love exactly what we're watching right now. Counter-Strike is what brought us all here. But for the time being, I've been tasked with something very, very special and I guess very interesting in a lot of ways. That I've prepared this, so I'll just read from the card if you wouldn't mind. The Intel Extreme Masters Katowice 2020 will drive on, and we will complete this Masters Championship. However, I regret to inform you, the viewer at home, that the public or in-arena audience, that has been canceled. That, for the time being, until further notice, has been canceled.
And I just remember my motivation was so down when it comes to playing the rest of the game. And then I hear this, and we are just not focused. We lose the game. My dream is always to win Katowice. That's been a big dream for many years. And my goals, all these kind of things, everything gets postponed. And we made sure to put the international lineup we had on the map and being like a competitive lineup, but the ending wasn't good at all. So my contract is running out beginning of the year, and I decided and told Maus I wouldn't be re-signing a new deal. So obviously came in contact with FaZe. Coming into FaZe, a lot of turmoil in the lineup. They lost Nico because Nico was a big voice. I think he was leading in the end. I knew again this might be a rebuild.
I think if you give the new FaZe roster Karrigan for a year, they can be top 5. And I think if you put Twist into a system with such an experienced in-game leader like Karrigan, he's gonna get the most out of that player.
And then I got the message that they're benching Cabri, getting Twist. He joined before me. So when I came into lineup, the point was not we need to compete now, but we need to compete for titles next year.
2021 was the year Karrigan started to build the foundation for what FaZe Clan could be, bringing everything he learned from Maus, along with the player. And then in 2022, they made history.
When that's crumbling as well. Fox is in a huge amount of trouble. He's going to try and take matters into his own hands. Couldn't find the second shot fast enough, but Jack, he drops in. Oh, the Stoney. About a superstar. Talk about the elite damage. That's going to drop them down. It's all on Hunter. And FaZe finally on the stage in Katowice will take a championship.
No way to describe this emotion. It's probably like one of the most insane runs in CSGO ever.
We then win Major 2 months later, 3 months later. And then to finish an incredible year, we win Cologne right before player break.
3 members of FaZe, they won't let this go. They will not go quietly. All of the rounds, led by the captain of our hearts. Lag says, I want to fucking hear you. Never before seen. You're champions of IEM Cologne.
3 trophies I dreamt of my whole life to win from since 2013. Always had problems winning them, and boom, there you know it, all 3 in 1 year.
After the historic 2022 run, the last thing they had to achieve was Grand Slam.
First to win, I think, International Trophy, first to win the Major, and first to win a Grand Slam.
Close. FaZe Clan, the champions of ESL Pro League Season 17 and the winners of the Intel Grand Slam!
All that wouldn't have been possible without FaZe and all the fans that pushing, and I'm just happy to be part of history with that.
Finn did it with so many like lineups over the years that is like very impressive to see, you know.
His capability of like winning a trophy with every roster he has.
I think Karrigan is one of a kind, you know. There's not gonna be another IGL like him.
The way he's still in the scene and still fighting for the top, I think he's. I always put him at #1 of all time.
Like the way I look at it, he's one of the greatest IGLs.
So I would place Karrigan at #1.
He's the best in my eyes.
I don't know who's the IGL of all time. I think it's very hard to answer. I don't think I'm the right person to ask. obviously I believe I'm up there, but I'm not gonna sit here and say I'm the best IGL of all time. That's my goal, at least to be recognized as one of the greatest IGL. We will see when I stop my career. I have still things to do. Job's not done.